Hello folks, it's Christmas Eve and I have a special present for everyone out there. First of all, the CD version, the hard version and disc version and case version of Haunted Castle, my version, is available now if anybody wants to pick that up. I think it came out really well. Remember, this was originally an arcade. It never came out on any consoles, so there's no actual box artwork for it. So I kind of had to just scour around and kind of make my own from old, what do you want to call it, ads that were of the arcade and so forth, and I think it turned out really well. But that's not why you're here. You're here because you want to know what my next project is. And it wasn't like it just came to me out of nowhere. I had tried to work on this game in the past and couldn't quite get it to work a couple years ago, but then when I got back to it again with the more skills and experience I've learned, I actually am getting it to work. And that game is going to be Metal Gear Classic. Well, I call it Metal Gear Classic because I didn't want to call it like Metal Gear Remake or Metal Gear Revised or something, because I've already used those words before. And I call it the Classic because it is the classic Metal Gear for the NES. Now, the original one, or the one that came out before it, is on the MSX, and I'm not going to go into a whole video thing about that. You can watch other videos about the history of the original Metal Gear. But in a nutshell, what the Nintendo cartridge tried to do was it tried to mimic the MSX version, but it felt like they ran out of time, or they really ran into limitations of the system, because some things doesn't make sense. Things seem unfinished about it. It's glitchy. Certain things, like the guys with the enemies with the jetpacks, they don't fly around and stuff like that. Like, you can notice things when you've played the two versions back to back, and you can notice the differences. But I always thought that it had potential, and that is, of course, what I do, right? I look at original games for the NES or arcades or whatever, and ones that had potential in order to make them better. And then I thought, well, why not Metal Gear? Because it was iconic and classic at the time when I played it, because I never played anything like it. We were used to playing run-and guns, Contra games, running around shooting. I never played what would essentially be a commando type game where you didn't even start off with a gun. You had to be stealthy in the game, and it was such a new concept to me while going through it. My cousins introduced me to the game, and they were fanatical about it. And it was really hard to me because I couldn't grasp it. But once I started picking it up, it started getting more and more addictive on how you would play. You had to find a gun, and then I found out when you shot the gun, it made a loud bang, and that would make soldiers detect you, and you had to get a silencer, and then you had to get certain weapons throughout the game. It was really mesmerizing to me. Like, I really got into it, but it was flawed. So let's go back a couple of years or so ago when I tried to make it and I couldn't get it to work, because there's actually some really tricky things about Metal Gear, like line of sight and stuff like that, and getting the guards to do what you want them to do and detect you, etc. So I couldn't get it to work back then, and I scrapped the whole thing. I was like, I could get Snake to move around on the screen and stuff like that, but I couldn't get the intricacies of the actual game down. So I threw it in the trash bin of the computer, in the recycling bin, and never thought about it again until recently. And I was thinking, you know what? I can't let it go. I can't. I'm just thinking in my mind, I want to go back to it with the skills and experience that I've learned by making all the other games that I've created. That can I go back to it, and can I actually make this work? And I did, and I started solving the problems. I started solving the riddles that I couldn't exactly get in the code before, and I actually got it to work. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is finished enough with the engine to actually bang this game out. So if you want to see full gameplay footage without me yakking, you want to go to my Facebook's group page, linked down below. You can see the gameplay footage of what I've done so far there. Or you can go to Instagram, again, links down below, and you can see the gameplay footage. So with that, though, I want to tell you about the improvements that I made to the game so far. So everybody hates, including me, you don't want a video game to interrupt your gameplay by having to pause the game all the time in order to select something. It's just annoying, and Metal Gear has got to be one of the most annoying games for that because of, for example, the key cards. You need a specific key card to open a specific door. They're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. The point is that you go up to a door. You don't even know what key opens it for starters, and you just got to keep going through the keys that you own, pushing this pause, go into the key, go out, go back to the game, see if it opens the door, and just keep doing that over and over again. It's super annoying. So I abolished all of that. Now, whenever you collect a key card in my version of Metal Gear, it will just open the door automatically. You don't need to pause the game or anything. You just need to have the key in your inventory, and that's it. But I took it one step further. I shrunk down the pixels of these numbers, and I put little teeny numbers in the corner of the door to kind of give you a hint. Well, not really a hint, but I'm kind of spoiling it now, and the doors will actually be numbered. So now you actually even know what key card opens the door. So if you go up to it and it has a little 3 in the corner and it doesn't open, you need key card 3. Next, you had to pause the game in order to select different weapons, in order to select your items. I redid that whole entire thing from scratch. And I didn't really get the idea from Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation, but you can see similarities between the two. I'll explain. Because now, in order to switch your weapons, you just hit the... Well, here, I'll show you the controller. You just hit the top button right here. So that would be the right... Oh, you can't even hear me. There, with the microphone in my face. But whatever. Yeah, you hit these, the top buttons there. Not the triggers, the top buttons. And you hit the left one to switch your weapons, and you hit the right one in order to switch your items around. And that is just a million times better than having to pause the game, because now you can just quickly cycle through what you need, either a weapon or an item, in order to use it. And some people may say, oh, but Ed, that's going to be too annoying to cycle through all your items to get back to, let's just say, the handgun, which is your main weapon that you do use in the game. And I go, no, I thought of that. Because if you hit the triggers now instead of the buttons, it'll automatically cycle back to the handgun. And if you hit the right trigger, it will automatically cycle back to the rations, because the rations are the number one item that you use in the game to heal yourself with. And I think it works perfectly. Now, in terms of additions, now remember, I want the game to flow mostly like the original NES version of the game, which is sort of like the MSX version as well. So it's not going to be radically different from that one in terms of how the game flows, in other words, the path of the game, but I'm adding more levels to it. I'm adding more rooms to it, because one thing that I didn't like was you would get an item, like say for the gas mask, and it would only be used in like one little portion of the game, and then you never ever used it again. I was like, no. I want to make more gas rooms, and I'm going to make more rooms where you actually have to use specific items more than one time. Another thing too was in the original NES game, there are parts where if you go over to the left, I don't know why they even put this in the game. If you go outside of the screen to the left, let's just say if you're outside of a building, it just recycles the same screen over again. It just loops. And I was just like, why don't you just block that off? Why do you even let, like, I don't know, it seems, see what I mean by the game seeming unfinished? Like, why would you even need to go over there? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to block it off. I want to give people more. I want this game to be really, really big. And so I'm going to make it so you can actually go over there, and it's going to be a completely different area of the jungle and of the building. You can actually see the side of the building, and who knows, I might put some items over there, or it could be a trap and some guards and some dogs might jump out at you. Who knows? But the point is that you are going to be able to explore those areas now. Another thing that I didn't much like was things repeating themselves in the game just a little bit too much. Like, I thought that those pit traps, there were just a little bit too many of those in the game. So I want a little bit more variety. Maybe I'm gonna have those what are those, that big rolling crusher thing that went back and forth in one of the rooms. I might have more of those in the stage. I'm gonna have more security cameras, more guards, more dogs. I'm gonna actually make the guys with the jetpacks, the soldiers with the jetpacks, actually fly around. I'm improving the bosses. There were bosses that were missing from the NES version, like that big gunship helicopter. They just completely took that out of the game, but it's in the MSX version. I'm adding all of that. And then I'm making better AI on the bosses as well. And I think I already suggested I'm making extra stages. Oh, and what would a Metal Gear game be without the snake crawl on the ground? You know, that he does, like in, he did it in the MSX version of Metal Gear 2, but he never did it in the original one at all. Well, guess what? I added it. I put it in. You can now crawl on the ground. It looks totally cool, and I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to make it where you have to use it in certain situations, but you can actually crawl underneath the tanks now and hide under there. You could never do that before in the original one. I just thought it was so cool that I actually managed to pull that off. The sound effects are going to be from the original NES version, but I want the music to be a combination, because how can you not have the amazing soundtrack of the Metal Gear 2 for the MSX had a spectacular soundtrack. I have to add that, but I can't just completely obliterate all of the classic NES tracks as well. So they're going to be in there. They do fit with the MSX one. They don't sound like they're completely radically different from each other. So I think that you can sort of add them together, and it doesn't really, mess up the, whatever you want to call it, the music in the game. They actually go together quite well. And so I'm adding them both in so that the game sounds phenomenal. I think it's coming together really, really good. You tell me what you think. You tell me what I could possibly might be able to add. Type it in the comments down below. And yeah, so that's it. That's the next project I'm working on. I'm going to bang this sucker out. But like I said, I want it to be good. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be big. Like the original one was difficult to me, so I don't want to make this one so easy where people can just blaze through it. If you're getting frustrated with it and it's too hard for you, I don't really give a damn, to be honest with you, because this one is like, this is a personal project to me, and I'm making it the way that I want to make it. I want to make Metal Gear classic, better than it's ever been before, and I will let my work speak for itself that I believe that I can do that. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you get all of the great gifts that you want, and I'll see you next time.